So in this video, I'm going to be discussing spoilers for Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 7, and the title for this episode is called Born in the Dark, and this episode is scheduled to release on November 21st. This episode will cover chapters 511 and beyond of the Bleach manga, with the most recent episode covering chapters 506 to 510. Credit to the Bleach wiki page for most of the information that will be provided in this video. At the end of the most recent episode, Yhwach had offered to summon the corpses of Yamamoto's subordinates with Zanka no Tachi after he had stolen Yamamoto's Bankai, which caused Yamamoto to leap towards him in rage. Yhwach then summoned his great holy bow in the air above himself and fired a sacred destruction arrow down into the ground before him, which formed a long Reshi broadsword that Yhwach pulled out of the rupturing ground. While Yamamoto stopped in stunned silence at the sight of this and lowered his sword, Yhwach bid him farewell and slashed diagonally downward at Yamamoto, drawing a large amount of blood as Yamamoto was cut through at the left shoulder by the blade. That's where the episode ended, and now I'll be going over the spoilers for the next episode titled Born in the Dark. As an encounter between Yamamoto and a young Shunsui Kyoraku regarding a picture of a flaming monster is recalled, Yamamoto's severed upper torso falls to the ground. Yhwach tells Ugrum Hashwalth that it's time to leave, but Yamamoto grabs his leg. Yhwach severs the Captain Commander's arm and destroys the remains of Yamamoto's body while decrying how weak Yamamoto and the Gote 13 had become, particularly since the extermination of the Quincy. The defeat of Yamamoto is felt throughout the Soul Society, greatly shocking everyone. Shortly afterwards, Shunsui is struck by multiple shots from his opponent, who then summons soldiers to complete the destruction of Soul Society. As the soldiers overpower the survivors and wreck the Soul Society, Yhwach tells Hashwalth that the Zero Vision will soon emerge and that they should withdraw and wait for them. However, an explosion in the air above Yhwach surprises him at that moment. As Akon comments upon how he had finally managed to open something from his side, he collapses with several blades jutting from his back. Shaz Domino introduces himself and starts to talk about his power before being struck down by Ichigo, who is on the other side of the opening. Ichigo then bursts forth from the sky and goes to Byakuya. He tells Byakuya that Rukia and Renchi are still alive. Byakuya then tells Ichigo he doesn't have much time left and asks Ichigo to protect Soul Society. As Yhwach and Hashwalth note Ichigo's Ryetsu, Hashwalth asks if he could eliminate Ichigo. Yhwach says no and that they are leaving, but Ichigo arrives at that moment. Left alone, Byakuya notes that Ichigo did not answer his request before leaving. Reflecting on this, he contemplates that this is typical of Ichigo and that he already knows even without an answer. He expresses that he will leave it to Ichigo before falling unconscious with his Zanpakuto crumbling away. Hashwalth steps towards Ichigo, but Yhwach stops him and tries to reason with him. He praises him for breaking out of Quilch OP's jail, but points out that he is heavily injured, asking if he really intends to fight him in such a state. Paying Yhwach no heed, Ichigo asks him if he is the enemy leader. Yhwach answers that he is, but at the same time he's not. Agitated, Ichigo shouts at him, demanding to know if he's the one who made a mess out of Soul Society. Yhwach confirms that he is. In response, Ichigo flares his Ryetsu. Yhwach tells Hashwalth that there is no choice but to destroy him. Ichigo attacks him with a Getsuga Tensho, but the attack proves ineffective. Yhwach effortlessly pins him down and stabs him through the neck with his sword. Remarking that Ichigo is still breathing, he tells Hashwalth to take him back to their castle so that they can resuscitate him and recruit him into their army. As he turns away, however, he realizes that Ichigo is still conscious and that his sword has been halted by Blood Vein. Ichigo then swings his sword at him, tearing up the ground around them with his Ryetsu. While Yhwach is engulfed with the mass of Ryetsu being emitted by Ichigo, Hashwalth is left to cry out in concern for his leader. Emerging with his left arm severely burned, Yhwach comments that it was a mistake. Ichigo interprets this as referring to his survival of the Quincy's initial attack, to which Yhwach responds by attacking Ichigo once again. Coming down low, Yhwach overpowers Ichigo's block and attempts to cut Ichigo's forearm, only to be met with the same resistance as his neck. Confirming his suspicions, Yhwach then clarifies that he meant it was a mistake to let a pure Quincy combat Ichigo, as the confrontation had awakened the memories within Ichigo's Ryetsu, explaining that by using the full force of his power to try and escape Coolidge's jail, the feedback from his attack had awakened something at the very root of his soul. Due to this, he was able to escape, as the jail was intended to hold enemies and not Quincy. Confused, Ichigo asks what he meant by this, to which Yhwach then rebukes him for not knowing anything about himself nor his mother. While commenting that he had intended to take Ichigo back with them and re-educate him, Ichigo thinks back to his mother's death and becomes enraged, demanding once again to know what Yhwach meant. Saying he would reveal everything once they returned to the base, Yhwach once again moves to attack Ichigo, knocking back his sword arm and grabbing Ichigo's head with his other hand. Promising that the next blow couldn't be blocked with Blood Vein, Yhwach's arm is suddenly blocked by a mass of black Ryetsu. Recognizing what it was, Yhwach comments that it was time to return, as Yhwach could no longer remain outside of the safe area, the Shadow Realm. Wondering how the time could have come so soon, Yhwach realizes that Aizen must have done something to alter his perception of time during their conversation. Asking why Yhwach hadn't said anything beforehand if he knew, he merely replies he couldn't have stopped him even if he had wanted to. Preparing to leave, Ichigo screams for them to not leave, promising to chase them down. Moving to intercept the duo, Ichigo quickly finds his Bankai's blade broken by Yhwach and can only watch as the two are taken by the shadows. Just before disappearing, Yhwach promises to return one day and reclaim him, claiming Ichigo to be his son, born in darkness. So those are the spoilers for Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 7, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. Once again, this episode is scheduled to release on November 21st. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.